Hello everybody, my name is Rebecca and I work for the Health Education Council. We are a nonprofit organization here in Sacramento that helps people learn more about healthy living. I am here on Tasty Tuesday to tell you more about how tasty food can be healthy and provide the fuel and nutrition that our bodies need. Today, I'm going to teach you about some tools that we can use to make healthy choices with food. First, I'm going to teach you about something called MyPlate. Then, I'm going to teach you about Go, Slow, and Whoa foods. And lastly, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about food labels. All of these tools can help us learn how to make healthy choices with food, which is important because eating healthy provides our bodies the fuel that we need to learn and play and grow strong. We often think that eating healthy is complicated, but it is simple when we start by learning the food groups: fruits, vegetables, proteins, grains, and dairy. MyPlate teaches us more about why we should eat all of these food groups. Have you seen MyPlate before? When we look at MyPlate, it shows us the 5 different food groups in different colors. You can see that we should fill half of our plate up with fruits and vegetables, and the other half should have grains and proteins. Now you might be wondering which foods belong to which food groups and why we should eat that food group in the first place. Let me discuss some examples with you. We'll start with protein. Some examples of foods with proteins in it would be meat, beans, nuts, and tofu. We should eat proteins because they help our bodies grow strong muscles. Some examples of foods with grains in them would be rice, pasta, cereal, and bread. When we look for grains, we should look for whole grains because whole grains have more of the nutrients that our bodies need. Some examples of dairy would be cheese, milk, and yogurt. We want to eat grains and dairy because they help our bodies have the energy we need to get through the day. Now you're probably most familiar with fruits and vegetables. Do you have a favorite fruit or vegetable? My favorites would be carrots, celery, apples, and peaches. Fruits and vegetables give our bodies the vitamins and minerals that they need to stay feeling good. Now that we've talked about MyPlate, I'm going to explain how we can use MyPlate to help us figure out what Go, Slow, and Whoa foods are. Have you seen a stoplight before? A stoplight is there for cars to know what to do. The green light tells cars when to go, the yellow light tells cars when to slow down, and the red light tells cars, whoa, time to stop. When we use Go, Slow, and Whoa to describe foods, it is meant to help us know which foods we should go ahead and eat, which foods we should slow down and think about, and which whoa foods we should stop and try not to eat too much of. Now let's talk about what Go foods are. Go foods are whole foods, lower in added sugars and less processed. I'll talk about what processing means very soon. All of the foods that we would put onto MyPlate are foods that we want to eat the most of. These are the Go foods, like fresh fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts, tofu, whole grains, and brown rice. Slow foods are higher in added sugars and fats and are more processed. Whoa foods are highest in added sugar and fats and are highly processed. Now let's talk about what I mean by food processing. Food processing is when we take a food and change it from its natural form to make it something different. For example, if we have an orange as a snack, we aren't changing it at all. We eat the orange as it normally grows. It's just been picked off of the tree. But if we take the orange and squeeze it a little bit to get the juice out, and then we put it into a bottle to make orange juice, it has been changed a little bit to become juice. The step where the orange is squeezed and bottled is what we call processing. changing something to be different from how it naturally grows. So like I said before, the slow foods are higher in added sugars and fats and are more processed than go foods. Going back to our orange juice example, while the orange juice came from the orange, drinking it as a juice doesn't give us all the benefits we would get if we simply ate the orange by itself. When we think about slow foods, the main thing we want to focus on is slowing down to think about these foods before we eat them. So next time you reach for orange juice, slow down and think about how much of the juice you're drinking, and if you can, choose an orange as the snack instead. Whoa foods are the highest in added sugar and fats and are the most processed kinds of foods. We should try to limit how many whoa foods that we eat and try to save these foods as an occasional treat. Let's think about the orange soda. It looks a bit different from the orange. Did you know that there isn't actually any orange in an orange soda? This is why we would call it a whoa food. The orange soda has lots of sugar and other stuff added into it to make it a soda without getting any of the vitamins that you would get if you ate a real orange. Other whoa foods would be sugary treats like cakes, cookies, ice cream, or other snacks like chips and French fries. We should slow down and not eat too much of these foods and save them as a special treat. Some foods might be a little harder to figure out if they should be a go, slow, or a whoa. Let's talk about pizza. If we look at this pizza, we can see that it has low-fat cheese, whole wheat crust, and fresh vegetables on top. Each different part of the pizza has the different food groups that we talked about on my plate. The low-fat cheese is our dairy, the whole wheat crust is the grains, and the peppers and onions and mushrooms are the vegetables. When we put it all together, we get a go pizza. Other pizzas with higher fat cheese and meats and no vegetables wouldn't be the same, and we wouldn't call that a go pizza. That would be more of a slow or a whoa pizza depending on what we put on it. We're getting close to the end of the lesson now, so let's take a minute to review what we've just learned. Let's take a look at this list and see if we can figure out which of these foods are go, slow, or whoa. First on the list is fresh orange juice. What do you think? Like I discussed before, the orange juice has gone through some processing, so this would be a slow food. The next one is sugar cookies. Let's think about it. Sugar cookies have quite a bit of sugar, and we should try to save them as a special treat. These would be an example of a whoa food. Then we have whole milk. This might be a little tricky. It can seem a little complicated because when we go to the store to shop for milk, we can find whole milk, which has more fat in it, and low-fat milk, which has less fat. We want to try to limit how much high-fat foods we eat every day, so we would call whole milk a slow food. This goes for all dairy products, like the cheddar cheese. We should look for low-fat dairy products as our go foods, but we can still enjoy other kinds of dairy snacks if we slow down and think about it first. What's next? Let's see, a soft drink or a soda. Should this be a go, slow, or a whoa? Like I said before, soda has a lot of sugar added to it and it has been highly processed. We want to limit how much soda we drink, so this is an example of a whoa food. Lastly, we have baked chicken without skin. Baking chicken is a very healthy way to prepare chicken without adding more fat. And when you take the skin off, it has even less fat. This is an example of a go food, so we can go ahead and eat it every day. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is food labels. Have you seen a food label? Where on a packaged item can you typically find a food label? You can find food labels on the back of foods that come in packages. These labels are there to help us learn more about our food and can help us determine if it's a go, slow, or whoa food. If you look at a food label, there is a lot of information to read there, but we can just start by looking at the serving size and how many servings are in the container. We may think we're just eating one serving size, but the label might help us realize that we're eating more or less than one serving. The next thing you can look at is the calories. This tells us how much energy we can get from the food. The number of servings that you eat of the food will help determine how many calories you are consuming. If you have some time later, ask an adult or sibling to help you find a snack at home with the food label. Take some time to look at the label and get familiar with what it looks like. Now that we've reached the end of the lesson, let's quickly review what you've learned today. First, we talked about My Plate. My Plate teaches us the different food groups: fruits, vegetables, proteins, grains, and dairy. You learned that we should eat all of the food groups every day because together they give our bodies the nutrients that we need to grow big and strong and have lots of energy throughout the day. Then I talked about go, slow, and whoa foods and how we can use it to remember which foods we should eat every day, which foods we should slow down and think about first, and which whoa foods we should save as special treats. Let's look at this poster to remember which foods are go, slow, and whoa. For the go foods, we can see fruit and vegetables, low-fat milk, low-fat cheese, brown rice, baked fish, whole grain breads and cereals, lean meats, and water. For the slow foods, we have vegetables with added fat or sugar, 2% milks, white bread, pretzels, baked chips, lunch meats, animal crackers, fruit juices, other higher fat cheeses, and meats. For the whoa foods, there's soda, sports drinks, sweetened yogurt drinks, flavored milks, high sugary cereals, donuts, cake, candy, chips, fried foods, and other processed cheeses. Lastly, we talked about what a food label is and how we can read it. We can read the serving size to learn how many servings are in the package, and we can read the calories to figure out how much energy we can get from the food. And that's it. We sure learned a lot today. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope you learned something new on Tasty Tuesday, and I hope you have lots of fun for the rest of Every Kid Healthy Week. Bye!